It was a perfectly lazy morning, the kind Big Fat Cat lived for. Sunlight poured in through the half-open curtains, warming the kitchen floor just right. The toaster clicked, the kettle hissed, but none of that mattered, because Big Fat Cat was dreaming of cheese. Not the fancy kind humans nibble at parties, but cartoon-style, bouncy yellow cheese with holes you could jump through. In his dream, he was chasing a cheese-shaped spaceship, piloted by mice in sunglasses. When thought he rolled off the couch and landed belly-first on the floor. That should have been his first clue. Today wasn't going to be normal. He stretched, yawned so hard his ears wobbled, and waddled over to his food bowl. Empty. That was clue number 2. Now, Big Fat Cat had many philosophies like never. Trust a closed tuna can, and if the fridge door is open, it's an invitation. But most importantly, breakfast should never be late. He glanced up at his human, still typing away at the kitchen table, wearing those silly socks with pizza prints. Big Fat Cat meowed just once. Loud, proud, dramatic, but no sound came out. His eyes widened. He tried again. Nothing, not a squeak, not a purr. His mighty meow had vanished. He looked around the kitchen in shock. The blender whirred, the ceiling fan spun. Everything made noise but him, silent as a stuffed toy. He pawed at his throat, stared at the mirror on the fridge, and gave himself a stern look. This was a crisis, an emergency, a catastrophe. Big Fat Cat had lost his voice. He raced across the living room, belly jiggling like a bowl of jelly, and jumped onto the window ledge. There was only one creature in the neighborhood wise enough, weird enough to help him solve this mystery. Professor Whiskers lived 3 houses down, in a yellow bungalow with a garden full of wind chimes and gnomes wearing tiny bow ties. Rumor had it she once solved the case of the disappearing dog biscuits using only a magnifying glass and 3 sunflower seeds. Big Fat Cat leaped off the ledge, scuttled down the drainpipe, and tumbled into a bush. A startled squirrel squeaked and bolted, dropping half a granola bar. Big Fat Cat considered eating it. He was hungry, but the case came first up by the time. He reached Professor Whiskers' gate. He was panting like a fluffy accordion. He tapped the doorbell with his tail. Nothing. He reached up and knocked with a paw. Still nothing. Then the door creaked open slowly. With an eerie squeak. Inside was a jungle of books, gears, clocks, and tiny cat-sized inventions. From under a pile of newspapers emerged a small gray cat with round glasses, wearing a velvet cloak and carrying a cup of steaming sardine tea. "Ah," she said, peering over her specs. "I knew you'd come." Big Fat Cat blinked. "You're here because your voice is missing, right?" she added. He nodded wildly. "Interesting. Very interesting. Step into the lab." She led him past a hammock made of shoelaces and a wind-up goldfish on wheels. The lab was really a shed filled with blinking buttons and a chalkboard that read, "If you can't meow, you must wow." Professor Whiskers flipped a switch. A large, humming device popped up from the floor. It had headphones, a funnel, and a glowing blue fish logo. She placed the headphones on Big Fat Cat's ears. "This," she said dramatically, "is the Meow Detector 3000. It detects emotional frequencies in the feline throat chakra." Big Fat Cat didn't understand a word of that, but he nodded because it made her look very clever. She pressed a button. The machine buzzed, sparked, then dinged. A printout slid out. "Meow missing. Cause unknown. Recommendation. Seek the 3 meowers." Big Fat Cat tilted his head. "Legend has it," said Professor Whiskers, "there are 3 ancient cats who each hold a part of the meow magic. One lives in the forest, one on the rooftops, and one deep beneath the fish market." Big Fat Cat's eyes sparkled with determination. A quest, an adventure, a chance to get his mighty voice back. Professor Whiskers handed him a tiny backpack. "You'll need snacks." He took it and waddled out the door, heart pounding with courage and belly rumbling with hunger. His first destination, the forest behind the old park, where whispers of the forest meower echoed through the trees. They said this cat could sing 2 birds and charm squirrels with a purr. Big Fat Cat wasn't sure how much of it was true, but he had no other leads and he had to start somewhere. He crept past the dog park dodging a frisbee, poodles, and a very judgmental chihuahua and reached the edge of the woods. The air was cool and smelled like moss and mystery. Leaves crunched under his paws. A crow cawed overhead like a narrator from a scary movie. As he ventured deeper, he noticed strange things. Acorns arranged in perfect circles, tree bark with scratch marks that spelled out meow, and a toad sitting in a teacup. He paused, tail twitching. Suddenly, from above, a voice echoed, "You've come for the meow." Big Fat Cat looked up to see a sleek black cat perched on a branch, wearing a tiny vine crown. "You must be brave or foolish," she said, leaping down with the grace of a feather falling sideways. He opened his mouth to explain, but of course nothing came out. She circled him, tail brushing leaves. "To earn the first piece of your voice," she said, "you must complete the trial of echoes." He gulped. She led him to a glade where the trees formed a natural amphitheater. At the center stood a large stone shaped like a cat's head. "This stone," she whispered, "can hear your soul. You must make it laugh." Big Fat Cat blinked. Make a rock laugh. He didn't even have his voice. But then he remembered, he was more than just meow. He was expressions. He was energy. He was drama. He stood tall, fluffed his tail, and performed a silent pantomime of a cat slipping on a banana peel, getting tangled in yarn, and accidentally launching himself into a laundry basket. He finished with a tumble, landing upside down with one paw in the air. For a second, nothing happened. Then, the stone giggled. A low rumble followed. The ground shook. A warm wind blew through the trees, and a faint shimmer danced across Big Fat Cat's whiskers. 1/3 restored, said the black cat with a smile. You're funnier than you look, he beamed at. She bowed. Go now, to the rooftops. Seek the second meower, but beware, the winds are tricky. With a new spring in his step and the taste of victory in his mouth, Big Fat Cat turned and headed toward the city skyline. Above him, the sun dipped behind the clouds, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink. Ahead lay rooftops, riddles, and the next piece of his mighty meow, and possibly a snack. The rooftops weren't made for cats like Big Fat Cat. They were built for lean, silent hunters, shadowy stalkers of the night. Not for wobbly, wide-bellied adventurers with a fear of heights and a mild dislike of strong breezes. But there he was, scaling a rusty fire escape, huffing like a teapot, determined to find the second meower. The sun had dipped just enough to paint the sky gold, the city below buzzing in miniature. Big Fat Cat reached the first roof. A laundry-covered plat collapsed into a pile of sun-dried towels. He lay there for a moment, catching his breath, questioning his life choices, and wondering if maybe, just maybe, his meow wasn't that important. Then a sock slapped him in the face. He sat up and squinted across the roofscape. A series of jumpable paths stretched out ahead: gutters, beams, water tanks, and oddly enough, a trampoline next to a pigeon statue. It was an obstacle course. And a test. The wind picked up, whistling a strange tune. It wasn't a normal breeze. It almost sounded like a whisper, like someone was speaking in a language made of whooshes and hums. Big Fat Cat's fur puffed up. This had to be the place. He tiptoed across a beam, balancing with his tail, avoiding a row of plastic flamingos. Just ahead, a shadow darted between chimneys. He froze. Then it reappeared, tall, elegant, and wearing a tiny red scarf that flapped like a superhero's cape. Looking for your voice? Are you? The figure said, landing beside him with feather-light grace. Big Fat Cat nodded. The cat had silver fur and bright blue eyes that sparkled like moonlight. On puddles, he walked in slow circles, studying Big Fat Cat from all angles. Bit rounder than expected. But I suppose courage doesn't always come in sleek packaging. Big Fat Cat blinked. I am Zephyr, the cat said dramatically, guardian of the high wind notes. To claim the next piece of your meow, you must complete the trial of the whispers. Big Fat Cat tilted his head, ears twitching. Zephyr pointed to a tall antenna tower at the far end of the rooftop maze. The winds carried forgot soon sounds, lost barks, missing meows, the occasional snore. Climb to the top, listen carefully, and choose the right one. Pick wrong, and you'll be flung into a gusty loop of confusion. Big Fat Cat gulped, but stepped forward. His paws patted softly across the gravel roof as he eyed the towering structure ahead. His first hurdle, a bouncing clothesline. He wobbled on a pair of swinging pants, nearly got strangled by a scarf, and bounced off a bra like it was a trampoline. He landed in a bucket and rolled straight into a gang of rooftop pigeons playing cards. They stared. He stared. Then slowly, he stood up, nodded politely, and waddled on. Next was a long plank between two buildings. The wind was stronger here, howling like a rock concert. He crouched low and crawled, tail stiff behind him. Halfway across, a napkin hit his face and stuck like a mask. He panicked, stumbled, but somehow stayed on. By the time he reached the base of the antenna, his fur was full of dust, feathers, and one googly eye. The tower creaked in the breeze, metallic and mysterious. He placed a paw on the first rung and began to climb. With each step, the wind sang louder, swirling around him in loops of sound. He heard laughter, barking, the faint echo of a flute, then suddenly his own meow. Faint but familiar. He perked up. There it was again, softer this time, coming from the left. But just as he turned, another meow came from the right, and another from above, and another from below. Dozens of fake meows danced in the wind, teasing and twisting. He closed his eyes, steadying himself. This wasn't about hearing, it was about feeling. He focused. What did his meow feel like? Warm? Dramatic? Slightly overconfident? He followed that feeling, not the loudest sound, but the one that tugged at his whiskers. He turned toward a thin, whistling breeze that looped around the back of the antenna. He leaned in, and suddenly the wind wrapped around him like a hug. His fur rippled, and a faint glow lit up the tower. The scarf-wearing cat appeared beside him, grinning. Well done, fluffy one. You've chosen the true whisper. A gust lifted Big Fat Cat slightly into the air, spinning him slowly like a rotisserie chicken, and then gently setting him down. His chest glowed briefly, and his throat tingled. He opened his mouth. Meh. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't loud, but it was something. Zephyr bowed. 2/3 restored. You're closer than ever. But the final test is the strangest. Big Fat Cat raised an eyebrow. You must go underground, Zephyr said, leaping onto a chimney. To the one place where all forgotten sounds are. stored beneath the old fish market. Big Fat Cat wrinkled his nose. Fish sounded good. Old and underground didn. Single quotes t. But he nodded, because he was Big Fat Cat, and this was his story. He climbed down from the rooftops, weaving through air vents and pigeons wearing sunglasses. At the edge of the building, he launched himself onto a trampoline with surprising grace, bounced once, then landed in a pile of cardboard boxes behind the market. The fish market wasn't what it used to be. It had closed years ago, replaced by a sushi delivery app. But the building still stood abandoned, creaky, and slightly fishy. Perfect for secrets. He tiptoed past broken crates and dusty signs. A flickering neon fish buzzed above the door. He pushed it open, the rusty hinges, crying like a violin with a sore throat. Inside, it was cold and echoey. He padded past the counters, the scales, the ancient price tags. 3 sardines for a song. Strange. In the back corner, behind a curtain of tangled fishing nets, he found a hatch. It was round, metal, and had paw prints etched into it. He pushed it open and a staircase spiraled into darkness. He took a deep breath and stepped inside. The stairs went down for what felt like forever. The deeper he went, the more the air shimmered with forgotten sounds. Echoes of babies laughing, dogs barking, old ladies humming. The walls pulsed gently, like living speakers. At the very bottom was a cavern filled with glowing orbs, floating in the air. Each orb pulsed with sound-teeny recordings of lost voices, old songs, ancient meows. Big Fat Cat stood in awe. Then, from the shadows, came a rustling. A figure stepped forward. It was an ancient cat, white as snow, eyes cloudy, wearing headphones made of seashells. "You seek the final piece," the cat whispered, voice like wind over gravel. Big Fat Cat nodded. "Then you must face the keeper of noise." The old cat stepped aside, revealing a massive orb in the center of the chamber. It throbbed with chaotic sound, sirens, laughter, crying, honks, meows, roars all mashed together. "To retrieve your true meow," the ancient cat said, "you must quiet the noise." With stillness, Big Fat Cat blinked. Stillness. That was easy. He was amazing at stillness. He napped 12 hours a day. He sat, he breathed, he closed his eyes, but the noise grew louder. He shifted, tried again. Louder still. He flopped onto his side, tried imagining tuna, laser pointers, boxers. Nothing worked. Then he remembered something. He didn't just want his voice for himself. He missed singing to the moon, making his human smile, startling birds on the fence. His meow wasn't just noise, it was part of his joy. He sat up, and instead of silence, he felt the breeze from the rooftops, the laughter of the stone, the warmth of the wind. He smiled, and the noise began to fade. The orb dimmed, the sounds softened. One by one, they vanished, leaving only a soft hum. Then, nothing. A new orb rose from the center, golden, warm, glowing like a campfire. Big Fat Cat stepped forward, touched it with a paw, and felt a spark jump into his chest. He opened his mouth. Meow. The chamber echoed with the most glorious, dramatic, overly theatrical meow the world had ever heard. The old cat chuckled. There it is. Big Fat Cat stood tall, tail high, heart full. His voice was back, but more than that, his spirit was stronger than ever. And also, he was very hungry. As he turned to leave, the ancient cat handed him a golden fish-shaped token. For emergencies, he winked. Big Fat Cat climbed the stairs, each step filled with triumph. Back above ground, the city lights sparkled. He raced home, burst through the window, and meowed loudly. His human turned around, startled. "You're back, and you're loud again." She opened a can of tuna. Big Fat Cat purred, tail curling with pride. He had journeyed through forests, flown through wind, and battled noise itself, fall to find his mighty meow. And now, he was going to nap like a legend. Big Fat Cat was back. His meow restored, powerful, dramatic, bounced off the walls of the apartment like a musical boomerang. He strutted through the living room, tail high, whiskers twitching with pride, announcing his return to every corner of the house. He meowed at the couch, meowed at the lamp, meowed at his food bowl, and finally, just for fun, meowed at the mirror and startled himself. But something felt off. His human was there, smiling, feeding him extra tuna and scratching behind his ears. The house was cozy, familiar. Yet deep inside, a fuzzy little whisper remained. It's not over yet. That night, as he curled up on his favorite cushion, the golden fish token from the underground chamber glowed faintly in the moonlight. He pawed at it curiously. It buzzed in his fur. Then, without warning, it floated into the air and projected a tiny hologram, a shimmering image of Professor Whiskers, spinning slowly like a magical voicemail. "Big Fat Cat," she said, her voice slightly distorted. "Something's wrong. Your meow wasn't the only one that vanished. The city's voices, they're fading again. I need you. Come quick." The hologram flickered out. Big Fat Cat's eyes widened. He leaped off the cushion, bolted across the living room, and jumped out the window with heroic flair, landing in a flower pot on the neighbor's balcony. He didn't stop. This was bigger than his meow now. He raced across fences, tiptoed along walls, and dodged 2 raccoons doing backflips in a dumpster. When he reached Professor Whiskers' house, The front door was wide open. Inside, chaos. Papers flying. Machines blinking red. The Meow detector 3000 in meltdown mode. Professor Whiskers stood in the center of it all, wearing night vision goggles and a scuba flipper on one paw. "Ah, good," she said, calm but serious. "You're here. I feared we were too late." Big Fat Cat meowed, loud and heroic. She nodded. "Yes, your voice is back, but someone or something is stealing others now. Dogs can't bark. Birds can't chirp. Even the alarm clocks have gone silent." He gasped. She led him to a spinning globe on her desk. "The source is moving," she said, pointing to a blinking dot. "Fast. North end of the city. It's heading toward the sound tower." Big Fat Cat's fur stood on end. The sound tower was the tallest building in town, filled with satellite dishes, antennas, and radio beams. "If someone got control of that, they could silence the whole city," she whispered. He narrowed his eyes. "I'll teleport you," she added. "Well, not exactly teleport, more like launch." Before he could argue, she shoved him into a cannon-shaped device labeled FLING, feline launcher into gravitational nonsense. There was a BOOM. Big Fat Cat soared through the night sky, flapping his arms as if he'd suddenly become a bird. He landed in a bounce house on top of a delivery truck, rolled through a doggy daycare window, and eventually tumbled into a flower cart parked at the base of the sound tower. Covered in petals and pride, he dusted himself off and looked up. The tower loomed above, glowing with pulses of strange light. At the very top, a shadowy figure moved between antennas. Big Fat Cat dashed inside. Up the emergency stairs, his body bouncing like a fluffy slinky. Each floor brought new weirdness. On one, a room full of frozen clocks. On another, parrots silently mouthing curses. Then a hallway where even his own footsteps made no sound. At last, he reached the roof. There, at the center, was a sleek, strange creature. Tall, cat-like, with fur that shimmered like static. No face, just a hollow glow where its eyes should be. It turned slowly. "You brought your voice back," it said, in a voice that wasn't a voice at all but a vibration in the air. Big Fat Cat stepped forward, chest puffed, tail straight. "I collect sound," the creature continued. "I store it, protect it, but too much noise, chaos. I silence it. I bring peace." Big Fat Cat shook his head. "Noise is part of life." He tried to meow. The creature paused. "You would fight, to keep the barking, the alarms, the awful saxophone guy from 3B? Big Fat Cat thought about that. The saxophone was awful, but still, yes. He nodded. "Then you must challenge me," the creature said. "Not with claws, not with teeth, but with sound." A glowing platform rose. Lights formed a ring around them. A crowd of pigeons and raccoons gathered, drawn by the silent buzz of anticipation. This wasn't just a showdown. It was a battle of the MEOWS. The static creature let out a low, rippling hum that shook the roof. The air twisted. Antennas buzzed. Big Fat Cat stepped up. He closed his eyes, focused, and meowed. But not just any meow. A meow filled with adventure forest laughter, rooftop whispers, echoes of dreams. A meow of memory, of mistakes, of triumph. It blasted across the tower like a tidal wave of feeling. The creature trembled. The antennas flickered. And then something unexpected happened. The creature split into hundreds of tiny sound bubbles, each one drifting into the sky. Some burst into birdsong. Others became honks, barks, laughs. The city below lit up with sound once more. Big Fat Cat stood there, exhausted, panting. The pigeons cheered. The raccoons did cartwheels. Somewhere far away, the awful saxophone guy played a note so wrong it circled back to being right. Professor Whiskers appeared through a portal shaped like a headphone jack. "You did it," she said. "You restored the balance." He meowed proudly. The golden fish token floated down and dissolved into sparkles. His mission was complete. Back home, the city buzzed, as always loud, messy, wonderful. Big Fat Cat napped in the sun, occasionally waking just to meow at absolutely nothing. Because now, he knew, a voice is more than sound. It's a story, a memory, a heartbeat. And sometimes, it's just really fun to be loud. The end.